Hey everybody, it's Leela from Miss Kiss Creations. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how I create my watermelon tumbler. This is a watermelon tumbler I have made for myself, and we're going to recreate this from start to finish. Alright, so I'm going to go over the materials as I use them so I don't forget anything, and then I'll try to put all the materials I have or I've used in the description below. So today I'm using a 20 ounce from Ozark Walmart. I did prep it. There is a video on how I prep my tumblers. I've prepped it and I've sprayed it with white matte spray paint. I think it was Rust-Oleum brand or Krylon, but it is the flat or the matte spray paint. I think it's like spray paint and primer. And the way that I'm going to be applying my glitter today is going to be with Mod Podge. I'm using this Mod Podge today. I've used other types of Mod Podge. I've used the dishwasher safe Mod Podge. There's no, for me personally, right or wrong Mod Podge to use. So if you don't have this exact one and you have the dishwasher safe one, the bluish green one, it is okay to use that one as well. The glitters I'll be using today, it's going to be Pesto from Recollections, Pesto. And also Recollections is going to be raspberry. And then I'm using Snow White from PoshGlitter. And PoshGlitter, you can find them on Etsy. That's P-O-S-H. And that color was Snow White. This glitter is it's a thicker type of glitter. I don't know if you can see that. But you don't have to use a thicker type. This was the only white glitter. I also have this white. Any type of white can work. This is your tumbler, so you don't have to match it exactly how I have it, but this is just how I do it. So like I said, I'm going to be applying my glitter with Mod Podge. So this is my Mod Podge brush or my sponge brush. And then I have my Mod Podge over here. And the way that I apply my Mod Podge and my glitter on my tumbler is a good way whenever you're doing the, whenever it's on a full covered tumbler of one, hang on, let me change this, of like a one color tumbler. I only apply the Mod Podge where I want the glitter to be. So if you are doing like a striped tumbler or an ombre tumbler or a watermelon tumbler, only apply the Mod Podge where you want the glitter to be. Obviously over time you're going to get better at this. So like this one I applied a little bit too high for my green, but it's okay because I'm just going to stop where I wanted to stop. But in the beginning when I first started doing tumblers, I did it exactly where I wanted the glitter to fall, because or where I want the glitter to stick, because right here I don't have any glitter right here. So if it falls here, obviously it won't stick. So I'm going to take my Pesto from Recollections and I'm just going to put the glitter on the tumbler like so. And the way that I use, the way that I eyeball this one, this is an Ozark. And then Ozark has an emblem. And if you can see the emblem, I stop at the bottom of the emblem for the green, roughly around that area. So that's where I stop with my green. That's how I eyeball most of them. Or not most of them, my watermelon tumblers. I stop kinda at that area. Now it is a watermelon. All watermelons aren't made equally. So it doesn't have to be a perfect line. So remember that while doing your tumbler. You don't have to have, sorry if this isn't in the camera. You don't have to have the lines perfect. So like I said, it is a watermelon, so it's not a straight, you're not wanting any straight lines. And then whenever I get finished applying my first coat of glitter, I always tap out the excess glitter so it can fall underneath my paper. And I'm using construction paper, but sometimes I do use printer paper. Or some people use, I believe, wax paper or parchment paper. So they do use that. And then I'm flipping my paper upside down for the next color, which is going to be the white, because I don't want any greens in this white. So I wiggle my paper over my trash can because I'm real anal about not getting any other colors in my white glitter. So now I'm gonna apply more Mod Podge just above the green. You don't want to carry the green up, you just want to go right above it. I don't know if I'm getting all this on the camera, sorry guys. Here we go. It's hard to keep the camera straight and also be able to do the work, or to do the tumbler efficiently. So I'm trying not to mess up, but I also want y'all to see. I'm sorry that my light is whiting this out right now, but whenever I get the other glitter on here, it will be better. So all I'm doing now, I know you can't see too well, is applying more Mod Podge. And like I said, if you are a beginner with glitter, only apply the Mod Podge where you want the glitter to stick. Right now I'm going a little higher only because I've gotten used to my heavy handness of pouring the glitter on the tumbler. So again, taking my Snow White from PoshGlitter, and I am just tapping. Now you want a very thin line here, so I'm tapping very, very lightly on the tumbler. And again, this is just the first coat of glitter. So how I always think of the first coat is these are kind of, I'm creating, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm creating more of guidelines on my first coat of glitter. So just know that if a lot doesn't stick, just keep going. And, or if a line isn't exactly the way you want it to look, just keep going. These are just basically a guideline pour, I should say, and then it will clean up here once the next step happens. Oops, poured a lot there, but it's okay. I'm just cleaning up just a little bit. Like I said, the line doesn't have to be even. It's a watermelon. It's not perfect straight lines. If they did, then we would tape it off. And the good thing about white is we're going to be placing the pink after the raspberry. And anytime you're applying glitter and you want like an ombre effect, always place the lighter color first and then the darker color over the lighter color. So there's more room for mistakes and there's more room for corrections. So I did pour my Recollections raspberry inside of a Dixie cup only because this is the 4 ounce. And I have a very heavy hand. And I don't want to pour all of this all over the tumbler. It's going to go everywhere. And when I first started, even whenever I had like this small of glitter, I always put it inside of a Dixie cup. It was so much easier for me when I first started. I had better control of where the glitter fell. Another reason why I only place Mod Podge where I want the glitter to land is because Mod Podge dries very quickly. And a lot of y'all who do tumblers who are watching know that it dries quickly and it dumps out quickly. And so that's why a lot of y'all use the epoxy method when it comes to applying glitter. I love the epoxy method. I'm not opposed to it. I use the epoxy method for glitter. I will be creating a video of it, but I prefer the Mod Podge method. When I'm working with chunky glitter, I of course prefer the epoxy method. So I'm going to coat the tumbler all the way, or the rest of the tumbler, and make sure you're getting these lines even. Only because you can, if you don't apply a heavy amount of glitter, or sometimes you can see the lines through the glitter. And you don't want this to be a heavy coat, you just want it to be a, how should I explain it, a full coat of glitter. Okay. And then this is the easy part because we just pour this raspberry all over this tumbler. I got this Recollections glitter, I'm sure a lot of y'all know, from Michaels. So I'm sure Michaels Recollections, they have a white glitter. If you're just starting these tumblers, I would just go ahead and purchase a white glitter that you find. instead of purchasing. I mean, you can purchase it online, not saying you can't, but I know whenever I start doing these tumblers and I have one of mine, I want all the materials now. And I want to start it now. So I don't want to wait for the mail for 5 days to get one piece of my tumbler when I have it right in front of me at Michael's and I could just buy it. Okay, so now that we're getting closer to the white, we're gonna lift up the Dixie cup. So if you saw that I poured that, there we go. I poured that rather close to the tumbler. If you see, I kind of just dump it on, only because it's such a wide canvas or tumbler that you can just literally dump it on and it will stick. But once we get closer to the white, oops, I just bumped it. Once we get closer to the white, you want to lift up the tumbler or the Dixie cup of glitter higher and higher. And you don't, I mean, take your time doing this, because obviously if you rush, then you might make a mistake. But don't lollygag with this, because like I said, Mod Podge takes very short time to dry. So keep that in mind while working with this. But even if Mod Podge dries, I will tell you how to fix this in a minute. Because if you can tell that this tumbler, I'll show up close, it doesn't have full coverage of the glitter. And I will show you what I do next. And this is the process I use for all of my glitter tumblers, unless it's chunky. Like I said, whenever I'm working with chunky, I like to use the epoxy method. The reason for that is because I started, which a lot of y'all already probably know this, but I started doing when I first started, I did the Mod Podge method for the chunky, and the chunky would stick up, and then I would sand it and sand it and sand it down for those chunkies to come down and be smooth. And even whenever I did that, it still wasn't as smooth as I wanted. So whenever you're doing the epoxy method, you can stick down the chunkies with your finger, and you have a little bit more leeway with that. So like I said, the first coat of glitter, it's more of guidelines. So, oops, I keep bumping this tumbler, guys. I'm not used to this short football. I have this, I always, whenever I glitter, I always have a football, my pipe and my football, and I'm not used to this short one. So if you can tell, you see it's kind of missing some spots there. It is okay. We are going to clean this up, and this is how I do every single glitter tumbler. And I just kind of beat it down on the table, and I'm trying to get all the excess glitter off of the tumbler. So we have almost a full coverage. So what I do next is, instead of, a lot of people wait for the epoxy to dry, or I'm sorry, the Mod Podge to dry, and then they apply another coat of Mod Podge. I don't have that much patience, so I use spray adhesive, and I always use spray adhesive on my second coat. So this is Krylon spray adhesive, but I've used Loctite. No, I'm sorry. Yes, Loctite and Mod Podge spray adhesive. So I just get whatever's at the store. This is very, very strong, so I recommend you spraying this outside. So I'm going to turn the camera off, and I'm going to spray only the pink area. I'm going to lay, or I'm sorry, not the pink, the green area, and then I'm going to lay the green glitter down, and then we're going to spray the white and the pink area, and then lay them two down. So I will be right back. Alright, so I sprayed the green area, and if you can tell, it's a lot more dull where I sprayed. And then we're just going to lay we're going to lay the green over where the green is. And we're going to use the same guidelines as whenever I laid the other green. Like I said, when I do all of my glitter tumblers, this is the same process I use. I think it's faster, it's quicker, and faster and quicker is the same word. It's just easier for me, especially when doing ombres. And then I'm a little bit more careful whenever I get closer to the white. I don't tap as heavily, and I kind of back away from the tumbler when I get close to the white. And then I'm going to hit it with my hand just to get the excess glitter off. And y'all didn't see this on the camera, but every time I spray with adhesive, I always blow on the tumbler to get the excess glitter off. And it's just another way to do it. So here's the bottom so far. Sorry, this light is like washing it out. But that's the bottom. And then I'm going to spray, I didn't spray into the white, so I'm going to turn off the camera again and I'm going to spray the white area. And then we're going to place the glitter and then do the pink. I sprayed the white in the pink area. So I'm going to place the white on the tumbler now. And I spray about 2 even coats of the adhesive on the tumbler. And since this is such a small area, I'm taking the glitter and I'm just placing it down on the tumbler with my fingers and kind of pinching it. And this kind of makes like the ombre effect. This might seem like a lot of work, but I sell these tumblers and I just want the best tumbler that I can make. And if this is what I have to do to get the look that I want, then this is what I'll do. So this is a great technique for ombreing too. It gives it like a blend. And I'm doing the white first because if y'all remember what I said about placing the light colors before the darker colors. Okay. And then we're going to, okay, so I see some pink in there. So I have, I'm going to put this to the side because I'm going to separate this at the end or when I'm done with the video. Sorry guys. I don't want to waste my glitter, but I also don't want pink inside of my white. So now we're going to lay the pink glitter, the raspberry. And thankfully, I don't think this dries as quick as the Mod Podge. And you're just dumping it all over the tumbler. This is the easy part. You get more of a coverage. Whenever you do, if you do decide to do the Mod Podge method the second time around, if you don't have the spray adhesive, that's okay. Just make sure the Mod Podge is dry underneath, because if it's not and you take your sponge brush and you apply more Mod Podge, it's gonna scrape the glitter. It's gonna smear the glitter all over the tumbler and it's gonna make the colors go into each other. Doing these tumblers is very repetitive when it comes to the techniques over and over again. And then I'm getting closer to the white, so I'm going to lift up my Dixie cup a little higher. I'm about 5 to 6 inches, maybe 5 inches away from the tumbler. Before I was down here at 2 inches, just to get that kind of fade effect. Not ombre, but kind of fade effect. I don't want my watermelon to be perfect, so it's okay if it's not, and I don't want the lines to be completely straight or exact. So I'm making sure I just get full coverage, and make sure you get the rim. Don't forget the rim, and don't forget the bottom. I'm gonna spray the rim a little bit with my spray adhesive because I missed a couple spots there. I always forget that I always get glitter inside of the cup, and then I go to take out the football and it's like a glitter bomb on my lap. It's kind of funny. I kind of enjoy it though. Glitter's never a bad thing. So again, I'm getting closer to the rim, just to get that full coverage. And it looks like it is fully, almost. Just kidding, guys, it's not. I want this cup to be as perfect as I can make it, and if I see anything wrong with it, I will spend hours making it perfect for my customers. It's all about quality assurance, so looks like it's about there. So now what I'm gonna do, remember I always tell y'all in most of my videos, never forget the bottom. So the way I do the bottom is I just spray it with spray adhesive. I apply glitter, spray it with spray adhesive again, and then I apply glitter again. So I'm gonna do that off camera, and when I'm finished, I will show you how I seal it. Okay, I know I told you I'll do it off camera, but I want y'all to see every step that I do. So this is how I do the bottom. I don't lift it up like this. I angle it and I let the glitter fall on the paper. And I'm mainly focusing on the bottom, like the, not bottom, but like the edge. That's the word. I'm mostly focusing on the edge because the edge is very hard to get the coverage that I want. So I do the edge first and then I focus more on the inside. A lot of times the edge gets forgotten about, so we want a thick coverage. And then I just tap the top of my pipe of my tumbler arm, and you see there's still some spots where I need to get there. I spray more adhesive, adhesive, and it looks covered to me. Tap off again. I'm gonna go in my trash can, not in my trash can. I'm gonna hover over my trash can and then blow off the excess glitter. And of course, it never lands in the trash can. So now what I'm wanting to do is I want to make sure this glitter does not move, stays in one spot. If I go ahead and I apply epoxy on this right now, that pink is going to be all the way at the bottom. The white's not going to be visible. The green's going to mix with everything. So how we avoid doing that, and this is for every single glitter tumbler that I do, is I spray with clear or crystal clear acrylic coating from Krylon. This is the only stuff that has ever worked for me. It's Krylon crystal clear, and I always buy it off Amazon. I'm sure you can buy it from Lowe's or Walmart or Target, but I'm telling you, this stuff is magic. Like with the Mod Podge or the spray adhesive, you grab whatever you need to grab, but this stuff is the only stuff that I recommend. Again, it's Krylon crystal clear acrylic coating, and I do purchase mine from Amazon. It's just easier for me that way. So all I do, I'm going to take it outside, but I just spray it and I spin the cup, and I spray about 2 to sometimes 3 coats of spray on here. So you have to lay this on thick. So I'm going to turn off the camera, I'm going to spray this, and then we will be back. Alright y'all, so now I have my tumbler on the turner. It has sat for about 30 minutes to let the sealer seal it. You want the glitter to be in place. And I went ahead and I mixed my epoxy off camera. The epoxy that I am using, it's Amazing Clear Cast. You can purchase this from Amazon, Michaels, or you can go to their website, Amazing Clear Cast, and get the gallon size part A and part B for 2 gallons. I am using 1 tablespoon of each, so 1 tablespoon of part A, 1 tablespoon of part B, making 2 tablespoons altogether. I probably will have some left over, but that is okay. I'd rather have more left over than not enough. And I've mix my epoxy thoroughly. I've mixed it for about 3 minutes. And then, like I always do, just a habit of me hitting it with a heat gun for a couple seconds just to pop those bubbles that's in there. See a little fuzz on there. Okay, so now we're going to pour. You're not going to dip your fingers inside of the epoxy as much as I want to. I always want to dip my fingers in the epoxy, but I'm just going to pour it. That way you're not dipping your fingers in the epoxy and getting green or any other color inside of the Dixie cup or inside of the epoxy, and so it won't go to other colors. I'm going to pour it heavily here so I can try to get the bottom. There we go. You're going to do one color at a time. So if you see I'm pouring only on the green, you're just going to pour one color at a time and just make sure that's an even coat of epoxy. We don't want too much of a thick coat because we are going to be applying the decals and then we're going to epoxy this again. So as long as it's fully coated, that's all that matters. And then what I'm going to do is I wipe my finger off with a baby wipe just to get that glitter off of my hands, just in case I do end up sticking my finger inside the epoxy. It won't have too much white, or excuse me, green. So then within my other finger, my index finger, I applied the green with my middle finger, but I'm going to use my index finger for the white. And then I'm just going to pour it on and do the exact same thing. I try not to move my finger too much, the position of my finger too much, because if I have pink or green on my finger, I don't want it to come off. And I do wipe my finger on my silicone mat a lot. And we're just gonna pour again using my index finger, just to make it smooth. Because a lot of times whenever you do this, since you are applying the epoxy this way, sometimes the colors are uneven because you don't overlap your finger. So if you see I'm kind of pressing down on the green, the pink, and the white just to make it smooth. I wipe my finger off with the baby wipe, and then I'm going to be applying the rest of the epoxy on the tumbler. And for this one, I'm going to go up and down because it's a bigger surface area. And that's just how I typically apply the epoxy. Once I finish applying this epoxy, I'm going to let it dry on the turner. I let it turn for about 4 to 6 hours. 4 to 6 hours, not 46. 4 to 6 hours, and then in the meantime, I will make the decals, and then I will place the decals on the tumbler. I usually have the spinner going my way, but for video purposes, I have it going y'all's way, so it's a little more sloppy for me right now than it usually is. And if you don't have full coverage on the tumbler, you can always, I always have my glitter next to me. You can always sprinkle some glitter in places where you kind of missed areas, and that is completely okay. I do that a lot. I have the glitter next to me, so it tells you how much I actually do it. because I know sometimes if I forget an area, I'm like, oh no, I have epoxy in my hand, I have to go get the glitter. So, okay, I'm gonna wait for it to come back around. Don't try to chase your cup. It's gonna come back around. So I didn't apply that much glitter or epoxy right there. Okay, so it looks like I have a full covered tumbler of epoxy. And like I said, make sure you focus on these, the colors where they break. Make sure it is just smooth across. You don't want a thick coat of epoxy on this pink and then the white be very thin, and then it's going to be bumpy. Alright guys, we are back with my fully cured watermelon tumbler. It is super shiny. So I let this spin for 6 hours, and then I turn off my cup turner, and then I let it sit for another about 18 hours. So I let this spin plus sit for an entire 24 hours. And then it is completely cured. It is ready for the decals. I know you can just let it sit for like 12 hours and place the decals on. That's fine if you're in a rush, but I always just let them sit for 24 hours. I usually have another cup project to take care of. So here it is. Now, there are a little bit of bumps on this tumbler, and if you see there's some foggy spots right here, I went ahead and I took a 220 grit sand block, and I just went ahead and I sanded a spot. I only had one major one right here. I just sanded that spot down. So if I would place a decal over that, sometimes y'all see some tumblers with like bumpiness on the decals. It's because whenever you make them, you don't sand it down and it's on a smooth surface. So you can also, which I would probably just avoid putting a decal over that too, just in case. I would just put it around there. So don't worry once you sand your tumbler down. It will be foggy like so, but once you put the epoxy over it again, it's gonna shine right back up. Now what I typically do when I sand down my tumblers is, I did this off camera, is I put it underneath warm or like room temperature running water. So I don't put it on cold, I don't put it on hot, I put it on the middle of the sink setting, and I let my tumbler get soaked with the water. I keep the water running, and I just sand my tumbler like so. So that's what I did, and then you just dry it off. And again, I use 220 grit. I've also used 320, so I use between those two. And I did get these sand blocks at Lowe's, and you can also purchase them at Walmart. So now we're ready to put the decal on, and I will show you how to do that. Moving on to the decal for the tumbler. The decal is going to be the watermelon seeds and the optional name. I'm just going to go over how I put the watermelon seeds on the tumbler, and it's your choice if you want to add the name. So what I do is I have my Cricuts, and I am using my Cricut design space. What I did was I Googled raindrop SVG, and SVG is a cut file. Whenever you are using cut files are like what I have over my cursor right now, right here. They are like shadows. So when I see watermelon seeds, I think of raindrops, so that's what I went ahead and Googled. So you see all these raindrops. I saved it, I uploaded it to my Cricut design space, and I have them here. So let me go ahead and zoom this in a little further for y'all so you can see. When I see a watermelon, there are different size seeds naturally. So I went ahead and I made 3 different size of seeds. So this one's 0.3 by, or 0.431 by 0.475. And this one's 0.371 by 0.42. And then the smallest one is 0.298 by 0.336. All of these, this was trial and error, so I went ahead and I just made one by one, like 1 inch by 1 inch, and then I went from there. I thought it was too big, so then I adjusted accordingly. So that's all I did, and that's what I typically do on most of my tumblers that that I start off with. So I hope you guys can see these. Here, you can see the size of that big one. Like I said, it's 0.431 by 0.475. The medium size one is 0.371 by 0.42. And then I have the small one is 0.298 by 0.336. And they can be different. You can make them all the same size. If you think one's too small, then make them bigger. It is all up to you. This is your tumbler. I'm just making this video for inspiration for you. So if you want to do anything different on here, then go ahead and I hope you share it on my Facebook page or my YouTube so I can see y'all's work. So once I have this, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out and I will be back. The vinyl that I am using today is 651 permanent vinyl. You can use 631 on your tumblers because once you put the 631 over, which is the non-permanent, the temporary vinyl, you're going to be sealing it with epoxy. So if you do have black 631 or non-permanent vinyl, you can put that on your tumbler. It is completely okay. So we're going to have the Cricut cut out the decals. And the vinyl, where I purchased my vinyl from, I always purchase my vinyl from 651 Vinyl. That's 651vinyl.com, and I will post that link in my description below. I have my watermelon seeds right here, and all I need to do is weed. I'm using my Cricut weeding tool, and I'm just gonna poke the vinyl and I'm just gonna weed the excess vinyl from the seeds. Next, I took my transfer tape, I cut it down and I placed it right on top of the decals. So I have this transfer tape I did purchase from Amazon. I will post the link in the description below. Like I said, I just put it right on top of the decals, and I'm gonna go ahead and just trim off the excess transfer tape. And the good thing about this is if you are low on transfer tape or you don't have any right now, for these seeds, you don't really need transfer tape. You can just peel them up like a sticker and place them on the tumbler. So again, if you don't have any transfer tape, that is okay for this design. You do not need it. I just always use it because I'm just used to using it. So now I want the decal to stick to the transfer tape. So I'm using my squeegee from Cricut, and I'm just kind of brushing the squeegee over the seeds. Now I'm gonna cut these individual seeds. Like I said, if you don't have transfer tape, that is fine. Just peel it up like a sticker. So now you're just gonna place the seeds all over the tumbler, and it's that simple. You're gonna place them all around the tumbler, on the pink spot of the tumbler, I'm sorry. And you just stick them on like so. And then you peel off the transfer tape. You can leave it on and then peel up all the transfer tape at the end, or you can do one by one. And for this step, I'm going to fast forward. Whenever I place decals around my tumbler, like so, I always, like with this seed, I always leave it hanging, and then I take my scissors and then I cut off the excess that's not on the tumbler. So that's what I do, just to make it look like the seeds cut off. Here are the seeds on the tumbler. Now, since this is your tumbler, you can put as many seeds or as little seeds as you like. This is yours. I did leave a spot on this tumbler right here with no seeds. I'm gonna go ahead and put a name on this tumbler, and then I will add a little bit more seeds around here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'm gonna place it back on the turner so we can put the final coat of epoxy on the tumbler. All right, I do have my tumbler back on the spinner. I did add more decals or more seeds to the tumbler, and I also added the name on the tumbler. The way I applied my name to be straight, I do have a video on how to apply decals to a tumbler, so if you go on my channel, I do have a video on how to apply the decal straight on the tumbler. And the way I did this was I measured from the top to the pink area, and it was about a little over 4 inches. And so what I did was I made my name 4 inches to be proportioned with the pink area. And now I am mixing my epoxy. So we're just gonna add a coat of epoxy over the tumbler. And I am mixing 1 tablespoon of part A and 1 tablespoon of part B. I'm gonna hit it with the heat gun so I can pop a little bit of the bubbles. Okay. And the vinyl color that I'm using for the name, I always use the color cream from 651 vinyl. You can use black or white, but I just like the color cream. It makes the pink pop a little bit in my opinion. Oops. And then we're just gonna apply the epoxy like we would. And for this method, since there's already cured epoxy and we don't have to worry about the glitter moving around, I dip my finger inside of the epoxy and then I move the epoxy all around the tumbler. And I am heavy-handed, like I said earlier. I believe I said it earlier, so I do move the cup around a little bit with my hand on accident. So during the process, I readjust my tumbler to make sure it's not leaning. The butt or the bottom of the cup isn't leaning down to the ground. That way it will cure evenly. If it is leaning on the ground, then the tumbler will have more epoxy at the bottom than it does at the top. Just want an even, nice coat. And whenever you put epoxy over decals, or whenever I do, I make the coat a little bit thicker, especially since it's glitter. Some people call this a flood coat, so I put a very thick coat of epoxy, just so you can't feel that, that glitter or decals through the tumbler. And always, always, always don't forget about the bottom. When I first started doing tumblers, I would put a lot of epoxy on the bottom, so sometimes the bottoms, whenever it was finished, it would be bumpy. So make sure you're cautious of that. I put a thin coat on the bottoms of all of my tumblers now. This is a learning experience like anything else you do. So I do put a thin coat, but I do make sure there it is coverage on the bottom. And there you have it, my watermelon tumbler. I'm gonna let this spin for about 6 hours. I'll turn off the turner and then I'll let it sit and cure for another 18 hours, leaving a total of 24 hours to have the tumbler cure. It is so pretty, and I hope the camera is getting all the sparkles on the camera there. So again, thank you so much always for watching my videos. Thank you for all the support, all the likes, all the subscribes, all the shares. To see my final photo of this tumbler, you can go to Facebook and find me. It's Miss Kiss Creations. Again, when I get 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, I will be giving away 5 free tumblers. So please go ahead and hit the subscribe button to get entered in that contest. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.